Welcome back. My YouTube channel, Your Brain is a Pattern Machine. From the moment you wake up, it runs on loops. Thoughts, habits, beliefs, and behaviors that repeat day after day. Most of these patterns were formed years ago, shaped by how you were raised, what you heard about money, what you saw your parents do, and what society told you was possible. If you grew up hearing phrases like, money doesn't grow on trees, or we can't afford those statements in as truth, they became part of your subconscious programming. And without even realizing it, you started making decisions based on scarcity, not abundance. That's the trap. Your current financial reality is a mirror of those deeply wired patterns. You keep hitting the same ceiling, not because you lack intelligence or opportunity, but because your brain keeps leading you in the same direction. It takes what's familiar and makes it feel safe, even if that familiar path is keeping you broke or stuck. This is how self-sabotage works. You might consciously want more wealth, more freedom, more success, but your subconscious is running a script that says, this isn't who I am, or that kind of life is for other people. And so you unknowingly reject the very things you claim to want. Rewiring begins the moment you recognize that your thoughts are not facts. Just because your brain has run the same loop for years doesn't mean it has to keep running. It just means you've let that loop go unchecked. It's like walking a path in a field. The more you walk it, the clearer it becomes. But the second you stop using it and carve out a new trail, your brain begins to notice. At first, the new path feels uncomfortable. It doesn't feel right. It feels hard. That's not because it's wrong. It's because it's unfamiliar. The discomfort is proof that you're doing something different. That difference is exactly what creates change. Wealth doesn't start with money. It starts with thought. It starts with recognizing that if your mind has the power to limit you, it also has the power to free you. But that freedom requires awareness. It requires catching yourself in the moment you make a small choice, whether that's spending recklessly, avoiding a risk, staying silent in a meeting, or talking yourself out of an opportunity. That's the moment to interrupt the pattern, not with force, but with intention. You don't need to completely overhaul your life overnight. You need to catch the pattern, challenge it, and make a new choice. Repetition is what built the old programming. Repetition is what will build the new one. The way you think about money, your identity around success, and your ability to handle growth are all muscles. You train them by doing something different, something just slightly better, again and again. Your mind wants comfort. Wealth demands discomfort. If you wait to feel ready, confident, or certain before you act, the pattern wins. Every time you choose the unfamiliar path, every time you act against the old story, you're breaking the loop. Most people talk about the fear of failure like it's the only thing holding them back, but what's often hiding beneath the surface is something even more powerful. The fear of success. It sounds strange at first. Why would anyone be afraid of achieving the very thing they've always wanted? But success brings change, and change threatens the identity you've lived with for years. When you succeed, you have to let go of comfort, certainty, and even some relationships that were built on who you used to be. That kind of transformation isn't just exciting, it's terrifying. Fear of failure is obvious. It's about messing up, losing, looking foolish. But fear of success is sneaky. It's the quiet voice that asks, what if I can't keep it up? Or what if success isolates me? It whispers doubts like people will expect more from me, or I won't know how to handle that kind of pressure. This fear doesn't always stop you with panic. It stops you with procrastination, perfectionism, overthinking, and delay. It convinces you to play small, not because you can't win, but because you're not sure you can survive the win. Success means visibility. It means responsibility. It means stepping into a new version of yourself and leaving behind the excuses that once gave you comfort. When you succeed, you can no longer hide behind, I'm trying. You've done it, and now you have to live up to it. That kind of pressure can make people shrink before they even start. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, or next week, or when things are more stable. But deep down, what you're really afraid of is what happens when the dream becomes real. Because then the excuses are gone. Then the spotlight is on. Then the growth doesn't stop. It accelerates. There's also the fear of losing connection. You wonder if success will create distance between you and the people you love. You fear that if you grow too much, others might not relate to you anymore. You fear envy, judgment, resentment. You fear standing out when your whole life has been about fitting in. So you self-sabotage, not because you don't want more, but because you fear what more might cost. You dim your light, slow your pace, and talk yourself out of bold moves because you believe staying the same is safer. But the truth is, staying the same is the real risk. The fear of success only has power when it goes unrecognized. Once you call it out, you see it for what it is: protection disguised as hesitation. Your brain is trying to keep you safe by keeping you small. But you weren't built to stay small. The moment you start thinking bigger, acting bolder, and stepping beyond your current limits, the fear will show up. That's not a sign to stop. It's a signal that you're growing. The key is not to wait until the fear disappears, but to move forward with it sitting beside you. Because fear doesn't mean stop. It means something important is on the line. Your income is a reflection of how you see yourself. Not what you say you want, but what you truly believe you deserve. Your identity is made up of the beliefs, narratives, and internal standards you hold about who you are and what's possible for you. If you see yourself as someone who just gets by, who's always struggling, who isn't good with money, then your behavior will match that story. You will subconsciously make choices that keep you within the bounds of that identity. It's not a lack of talent, opportunity, or intelligence holding you back. It's the ceiling you've placed on yourself through your identity. People talk about strategies, skills, investments, and side hustles, but none of that matters if your self-pivot isn't aligned with wealth. You might chase success, but if your internal thermostat is set to scarcity or survival, you'll always find a way to reset. You'll make the money and then lose it. You'll land the opportunity and then back out of it. You'll get close to the breakthrough and then you'll sabotage it. Because deep down, you're trying to stay consistent with who you believe you are. Your mind wants alignment more than achievement. If you achieve something that doesn't match your internal story, it creates dissonance. That dissonance makes you uncomfortable, and your brain will do whatever it takes to get back to what feels familiar, even if that familiar place is struggle. That's why you have to upgrade the story you tell yourself. Wealthy people don't just act differently, they see themselves differently. They expect more because they believe more. They don't second-guess their worth every time they make a move. They operate from a sense of ownership, not from guilt, lack, or hesitation. Think about how you describe yourself when no one's listening. Do you say, "I'm just not a business person. I'm terrible with money. I could never earn 6 figures"? These statements feel harmless, but they're shaping your financial reality every single day. Every belief becomes a filter. When opportunities show up, your mind filters them through the lens of your identity. If the opportunity is bigger than your belief in yourself, you'll walk away. Not because it wasn't possible, but because it didn't fit the story you were carrying. If you want to change your income, you have to change the image you carry of yourself. You have to begin to see yourself as someone who deserves abundance, someone who creates value, someone who handles wealth wisely. That shift won't happen overnight, but it starts with awareness. Every time you think a thought about money, ask yourself, does this thought belong to the old me or the future me? Every time you face a decision, ask, what would a wealthy version of me do here? Identity isn't fixed, it's built. And as you build a stronger identity, your income will rise to meet it, because you'll finally stop getting in the way of your own growth. Wealth doesn't appear overnight. It's built through small, consistent decisions made every single day. It's not just about the big moves, the massive risks, or the once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. It's about what you choose in the quiet, ordinary moments when no one's watching. Every time you decide to read instead of scroll, invest instead of spend, reflect instead of react. You're wiring your brain for wealth. The small decisions may feel insignificant in the moment, but they are shaping the trajectory of your mindset, your habits, and eventually your results. Your brain is constantly adapting to how you live. When you choose discipline over distraction, intention over impulse, growth over comfort, you begin to train your mind to operate at a higher level. That training doesn't come from wishing or waiting. It comes from doing one better choice, one better habit, one better thought. These aren't big dramatic shifts. They're subtle upgrades, but over time they create compound growth. The person who makes small, smart choices consistently will always outperform the one who makes one big decision and then returns to old habits. Wealthy people think long-term. They know that the future is built in the present. When you choose to save even a small amount, you're training your brain to prioritize future rewards over immediate gratification. When you invest in learning instead of entertainment, you're teaching your mind that growth is more valuable than escape. When you follow a routine that supports your energy, focus, and goals, you're reinforcing the idea that your time and attention are worth protecting. None of these actions seem huge on their own, but they stack. They form patterns. They build a new internal standard. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. And your systems are built by your daily decisions. Wealth isn't just about numbers, it's about mindset. And mindset is shaped by what you repeatedly do. Every time you show up when you don't feel like it. Every time you take the harder but smarter route. Every time you say no to something that doesn't serve your future self, you're telling your brain that this is who you are now. You're not reacting to life anymore. You're creating it. The problem is, most people are waiting for motivation. They wait to feel ready, to feel excited, to feel confident. But wealth-building decisions aren't made with feelings, they're made with clarity. You don't need to feel good to do the right thing. You just need to choose it. Over and over again. That's how momentum builds. That's how habits form. That's how you shift from hoping to having. If your life today doesn't reflect what you want, don't chase a massive breakthrough. Focus on a better decision, a better morning routine, a better conversation, a better response to stress. One at a time. Scarcity isn't reality. It's a mental script that was passed down, repeated, and eventually accepted as truth. It's the voice that says there's never enough, that you must compete, that you should take what you can get before it's gone. This script is old. It's wired into society, school systems, families, and media. You hear it in phrases like, money doesn't grow on trees, we can't afford that, or rich people are greedy. These lines aren't facts, they're beliefs. And when repeated enough, they become part of your internal dialogue, shaping how you think, act, and receive. Scarcity trains you to shrink. It convinces you to settle for less. It teaches you to see opportunity as a threat and abundance as unrealistic. It creates fear around money, shame around ambition, and guilt around wanting more. And if you don't challenge it, you'll keep living inside those limits, no matter how much potential you carry. Scarcity isn't just about how much money is in your bank account. It's about how much possibility you're willing to believe in. You can have very little and still think abundantly, or you can have a lot and still feel like it's never enough. The scarcity script keeps you reactive. You grab the first job offer even if it doesn't align. You undercharge your value because you think no one will pay more. You avoid investing because you're afraid to lose what little you have. This mindset blocks creativity. It kills boldness. It makes you operate from fear instead of vision. And the worst part is it feels normal. It's so deeply wired that it sounds responsible, even wise. But wisdom rooted in fear isn't wisdom. It's a cage. Rewriting the script starts with awareness. You have to catch the scarcity thoughts in real time. When you hear yourself say, "I can't afford this," pause and ask, what would an abundant version of me do right now? Instead of saying, "There aren't enough opportunities," ask, "How can I create one?" The goal isn't to ignore reality, it's to stop being limited by it. Reality shifts when mindset shifts, and mindset shifts when you take ownership of the narrative running your life. Abundance isn't about having more stuff, it's about believing in more possibility. It's about choosing to see that there's room for everyone to win, that you are not in competition with the world, and that your value is not defined by lack. When you rewrite the script, you start making decisions from power, not panic. You stop playing small to protect yourself and start playing smart to grow yourself. Rewiring scarcity doesn't require perfection. It requires repetition. You replace the old language with new language. Someone you admire says, "You can't get the same results as the great ones." You sit down to write with the smart people, you release 10 pages on 8 hours. If you write the script, you replace the old language with new language. The second you see the great work you want to write, the moment you write it, you replace the old language with new language. The second you see the great work you want to write, the moment you write it, you replace the old language. You surround yourself with people who think bigger. You take small actions that prove to your brain that there is more out there. And every time you do, you weaken the grip of the scarcity mindset and strengthen the belief that you are safe to expand, safe to grow, and safe to receive more than you ever thought possible. Your income, your opportunities, and your financial reality will never rise higher than your sense of self-worth. You might land a better job, start a business, or stumble into a profitable deal, but if deep down you don't believe you're worthy of that abundance, you'll find a way to push it away. It might come through undercharging, overgiving, self-sabotaging, or doubting your value every step of the way. Self-worth isn't just about confidence. It's about the standard you hold for how you're treated, how you treat yourself, and what you're willing to receive. People think the path to wealth is external, more skills, better strategy, stronger networks. All of that matters, but none of it sticks if your inner world hasn't caught up. Because your outer world reflects your inner identity. You attract and allow what you believe you're worth. If you see yourself as someone who's always struggling, who always has to work twice as hard for half the reward, who never gets the big break, then you'll stay locked in that loop. Even if someone hands you a breakthrough, you won't trust it, or you'll downplay it, or you'll unconsciously sabotage it because it doesn't match the image you hold of yourself. Raising your self-worth is about more than saying affirmations in the mirror. It's about action. It's about setting boundaries with your time, charging what you're truly worth, saying no to things that drain you and saying yes to things that stretch you. It's about no longer accepting relationships, jobs, or environments that make you shrink. Every time you choose alignment over approval, growth over comfort, or truth over fear, you send a signal to your brain that you are worth more. Your self-worth also controls how much discomfort you're willing to tolerate on your way to success. Self-worth also controls how much discomfort you're willing to tolerate on your way to success. People with low self-worth avoid rejection, judgment, and failure because they see it as confirmation of their inadequacy. People with high self-worth understand that rejection is data, not definition. They don't make failure personal. They make it useful. And that makes them unstoppable. Because they're not waiting for the world to validate them, they're building internally, then moving outward with strength. Wealth, flows to those who can hold it. And to hold it, you have to believe you deserve it. Not just once, but daily, in the way you show up, the way you speak, the way you make decisions. Every time you accept less than you deserve, you reinforce a ceiling. Every time you honor your value, you raise it. The world mirrors how you treat yourself. If you want bigger opportunities, better clients, more freedom, more income, you have to start by becoming the kind of person who feels safe receiving it. Your worth was never up for debate, but your belief in it is everything. When you own your value, you stop begging for scraps and start building from overflow. You stop chasing validation and start choosing alignment. And that alignment is what turns inner belief into outer wealth. Thanks for watching.